let's address this. And first, I want to we got a story here breaking down a little bit what we got. USA Today reports truck convoy nearing nation's capital. Pentagon okays use of National Guard. Vaccination drive stalls as Omicron fades. COVID updates. As many as 700 National Guard are prepared to take posts across the nation's capital amid planned trucker protest convoys that organizers say could paralyze the city without entering it. Bob Bolas, a Pennsylvania truck driver, says he's leading the Freedom Convoy of trucks from Pennsylvania to Washington on Wednesday, but he told NBC4 in Washington that he has backed off immediate plans to gridlock the Capitol. We're not shutting the traffic down today. If we don't have a resolution from the government to the rights that they're taking from us, I will predict in the future it will get shut down. So there's this Pennsylvania convoy coming from the north. You've got the People's Convoy coming from California. I think Freedom Convoy is also California, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct. And there's also one coming from Maryland. And the guy, he's running for governor in Maryland. He's also there. But like there's some like iffiness because like it's just one truck and his tires got slashed. And it's like so many things happen at one time.
Interesting.
So I think these protests are incredibly effective. Nay, Ian, I believe they may be the most effective we've seen in our lifetimes because I've seen many, and perhaps you could argue the George Floyd riots got a lot done for Black Lives Matter. Yeah, but those are riots, not protests, and we know the establishment has been defending and supporting these violent extremists. In terms of a protest, you look at what happened in Ottawa. Boy, did that generate press. It made the issue of border vaccines the number one story, which is it's important. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, which is why nonviolent civil disobedience works. When you go out and you stage a disruptive protest, you'll get a slap on the wrist. You'll get arrested, and I think you should because you're crossing a line. But it's a line we say, okay, we get it. You wanted people to hear you. All of a sudden, the news says, hey, that disruption, it was because of this. So if you look at the Ottawa protests, how many people were talking about vaccine mandates on the border? Not a whole lot. The truckers get in their trucks, they drive to Ottawa, and all of a sudden for 3 or 4 weeks, one of the biggest stories internationally was this. Trudeau was forced to, I don't think he was necessarily forced to, I don't think they needed to use emergency powers, but the mask slips. Now we can see, you've got regular people saying this is fascism, this is martial law. It has exposed the despotism of this establishment, one grain of sand at a time. I'm not going to pretend like there's a revolution overnight from truckers honking their horns, but people can see the double standard. They can see the BS hierarchy, we call it now, not hypocrisy, that the left gets away with this stuff and the right gets punished for it. And you can see the lengths they're willing to go to maintain power.
That's the main thing. Because like no one would have ever expected that Trudeau would just invoke a terrorism clause just like that. Just to get a hold of how people are supporting these truckers. Like, just think about that for a fact. Like, to think about the fact that the thing which they did in terms of like freezing the bank accounts and even to reach as far as the crypto stuff, like the fact that Trudeau went that far, I think that just credits the truckers that without them putting this up front and center, no one would have guessed that the prime minister could go as far as to getting a hold of your personal bank account.
I did think that they would invoke terrorism stuff because of the noise. And roll ones all you want, guys, but noise can be violent. You can kill someone with too much noise.
But terrorism, though, that has terrorism by definition has like a political motive to it.
Well, right? I think that they were trying to scare people, or this is the mentality of what they're going to say. They're trying to scare people to get their politics accomplished. They're trying to frighten them into submission.
Ian, come on, man. They're honking their horns.
I know, but this is I'm wargaming the scenario right now. A fascist dictatorship will use this argument and say, your honking is violent. You are aggressing on the people, and we're going to invoke whatever we need to stop it.
And that is exactly why it was an effective protest. Because any sane, rational person is hearing that going, what?
Yeah.
Just honking.
What are you talking about?
But when you're there, I thought it was just honking
until
I watched a video of a guy that lives there, and it's like, okay, it's not just honking. Like it's a nonstop all day.
I mean, it's going to be not comfortable. But I agree with Sonic's take, where I think what happened in Ottawa actually exposed the Canadian government, because I think we've all, all of us were like, hey, they wouldn't go that far. Then we saw the freezing of the bank accounts. Then we saw the videos of these police officers rolling up to these truckers and just busting out their windows. Then we saw the viral footage of that disabled woman trampled by the horse. So I think that was actually really effective in exposing the Canadian government, because we never knew that they could be that authoritarian. I mean, up to my knowledge.
My concern is if you want to expose the American government and its fascist ways, okay, but if you hold a piece of meat out in front of a hungry wolf and it bites your hand, yeah, you exposed it for being the dumb idiot animal that it was. But what was the cost of the exposition? I don't need to sacrifice a bunch of truckers to prove that
What do you mean,
the
sacrifice
fascist
truckers?
dictatorship has taken over our government 100 years ago.
What do you mean by sacrifice?
I don't want to see people go to solitary to try and just to prove that Biden's in the hand of Klaus Schwab or some, like the Federal Reserve. It's so fascist. This whole system, we don't need to hurt ourselves to prove this right now. We need to fix it.
Fascistic, I think, is the better word. You know what I don't like about people saying communism and fascism is that they represent
Extremes.
No, they represent 100 years ago when we had this rising ideologies in Europe. They were specific. Now we've got a lot of technology that has changed how it's being implemented. And when Trudeau and Biden and they use these authoritarian powers, it's like commune-fascism. It's weird. So there's a meme where they fold the political compass, authoritarian right, and left over. It's like whatever China is doing. Yeah. It's like, no, exactly. It's like a weird new thing. But I will respond to you, Ian, by saying we don't want violence. Violence doesn't work because the establishment preys upon it. Right. When you look at January 6th, it was everything the Democrats and the neocon never-Trumpers wanted, because now they could justify everything. And we've got a system of laws that say, oh, you got violent, we got you now. The truckers, it was amazing. They were annoying. That was it. People were annoyed by them. A lot of people weren't annoyed by it. They were just like dancing in the street. They were having a good time. Well, what happens though is the powerful elites don't know how to deal with it because you're not doing anything. It's like going outside of someone's house and just protesting, yelling. It's like you're allowed to do it.
Well, but the noise violations, you gotta be careful. Like I do support a bunch of quiet, a silent protest, which a bunch of trucks just stopped in the roads for miles would be.
But Ian, you also have to think about the protesters. Like these truckers have been through so much, have been through all these crazy mandates, and now they're seeing that anytime they cross, into Canada, they're technically this like electronic QR code. For them, enough is enough, and I don't think honking is the worst thing in the world that they could do.
It's not just that. Like as journalists, we focus on narrative, imagery, binaries. Like think about the imagery of the State of the Union going on, and God bless Biden's speechwriters because I don't know what he's going to talk about during that time. But State of the Union going on, and at the same time, all these truckers outside the Capitol just blocking everything. So that's like a
optic.
That's an optic. That's a binary in front of you right there. Whatever like Biden cooks up at that speech, I don't know what he will. But there are people who are just literally saying, "Stop this stuff. We need to go back to what it was."
Can you imagine if, like, for the State of the Union, Joe Biden just comes out 100% honest, and he's like, "In my first year, my policies have driven massive inflation, high gas prices. We have a new war forming in Eastern Europe. Afghanistan was a mess.
They chose me to be here in the first place.
We got a fentanyl crisis killing Americans left and right.
Ukraine right there. So like,
dude, I would love him if he did that.
I agree. If he came out and actually was just like totally honest with everything,
I'd respect it.
Yeah, I'd be like, wow.
Yeah,
like I think that would actually, in some respect, make him one of the best presidents we've ever had for just coming out and laying bare everything he did wrong.
I might be getting too old for this job too. I just need you guys to know that I'm not who I used to be.
It's hard for me to talk.
Yeah. Like, I'm there with you, Joe.
I want to go to bed.
Yeah.
Why am I here? So I will respond. I will respond to your point, though, Ian. Those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable. Kennedy said that, and you fact checked that for me the other day.
Yeah. And Gandhi.
And
I mean, to be honest,
the Gandhi protests.
Yeah, but even Black Lives Matter. Like if they like for example, this is an example. Let's just say they brought 100,000 people to the Capitol, nonviolent protests, peaceful demonstration. They actually would have got a lot more done. Yes. I mean, fast forward to this year. Black Lives Matter, I mean, to be honest, they really haven't got much done. The only people that have really benefited are the founders like Patrisse Cullors, who are now richer than ever, got deals with Levi, got deals with YouTube, got, buying mansions in Malibu. But everyone else hasn't got anything from it. I mean, there's literally local groups all over the country, if you guys look it up, that are very angry with Black Lives Matter because they didn't do anything to actually fund their movement. We even have some people that, some mothers and fathers speaking out, who's had their son or daughter killed by police, who said, hey, Black Lives Matter came and all they did was just grift. Like literally they got rich and we didn't even see a dollar back into the community. So even Black Lives Matter with their violent protests, even though the media was on their side, they technically didn't get anything accomplished.
Yeah, and you got to understand, we're dealing with this like overarching culture war. Black Lives Matter had for a long time corporate support. institutionalized support, the vice president supporting, while they're burning down buildings and quite literally killing people. Aaron Danielson killed in Portland by an Antifa guy. You had the Antifa guy firebomb the ICE facility. You had 30 plus dead in the George Floyd riots, and they still receive institutional support. And then along come some truckers and they honk their horns and everybody loses their minds. And so I'm like, yo, I can tolerate honking. And I think the fact, it really is to me just so perfect to show regular people when they're like, yeah, my business was destroyed not last year, but the year before from the George Floyd riots. Why are you complaining to me and using emergency powers over some guy honking his horn? It's a slap in the face to the average person whose lives were destroyed. That you're going to have someone come out and they're going to be like, noise is violence, so we're going to crush you and freeze your banks. They do that, the mask comes off, and you're going to have a lot of regular people. Although I will admit, I don't know how many people are uninitiated at this point, but there's going to be a lot of people questioning what's going on.
Correct. Like in a bubble, like in the news bubble, in the politics bubble, it may seem like pretty mundane to us that people, oh, I hate the mandate. Oh, I hate the vaccine. I hate masks. But if you think about it, a normal, people say, like, throw on the word normie, like, who doesn't care about all this, and he just comes across like the DMV and all these truckers are clogging up, and he starts asking the question, hey, what's up? What's going on? Why are these people here? And that kind of like sparks the discourse within that community. And then they realize that, oh, hey, maybe the shelves are empty. Why are the shelves empty? Because the truckers are not bringing stuff across. Why are the truckers not doing that? Because they hate the mandates. Hey, what's up with the mandates?
But let me make one more point for you, Ian. When everybody goes out and smashes and destroys things for the George Floyd riots, people on the right, people who are not even on the right, who had their businesses destroyed, they're furious. And all of a sudden now they are gifted an emotional release that has no long-term damage.
Correct.
They honk their horn and they feel better. They get to express themselves, and it can help things depressurize. Because if you tell these people they're not even allowed to be noisy while the other rioters destroyed everything, then you're going to make violent revolution inevitable when people lose their minds.
I could see how what you guys are saying, like maybe that getting the wolf to snap at your hand and grab at the food is important to show people like, hey, it's not a puppy dog, it's a wolf, and wake people up that way. Like the 1970 May 4th Kent State shooting, Vietnam protest, a bunch of students were out there and they're throwing rocks at the National Guard. National Guard opened fire and killed 4 people. And that shocked the country into awareness, basically brought about the end of Vietnam War, more or less. You know, the song that was written about it was powerful too, Ohio, by Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. So maybe, but I don't want to see a bunch of people's lives get destroyed by some stupid Patriot Act.
You're right. And I think it's their choice to make. And I also just want to say, man, you know, I mentioned other people get that emotional release from it, but I got to admit, me having watched a decade of rioting, and the right never comes out in protests, and then finally when they do for issues of freedom, they get demonized. It feels good for me when I watch truckers just going honk honk. When I'm tweeting the word honk in all caps, the people are saying the cure for clown world is honking. Well, it's just like it feels good to be able to have something. It feels good. No, we don't want to get violent. I think violence is bad.
Yep.
I don't want to see people get hurt. But man, is it frustrating to see the extremists on the left do all of this stuff and get away with it and have the media lie and cover up for them. And then you know what happens? I watch some truckers piss all of these people off by honking. No long-term damage to these people. No one's getting hurt. They're just getting frustrated and angry. And it feels good at the very least. Like, thank you. We've expressed our outrage to you. That frustration we've had, it allows people to laugh about it. Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to watch live, you can check out this channel Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Now, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and if you want more unfiltered and uncensored content with all of these guests, go to timcast.com and become a member. All of these guests you know and love in exclusive segments on our website where we are unrestricted in what we talk about. So you'll definitely not want to miss it. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all next time.